In Snapshot 24W21A, Minecraft fixed a massive bug from 2017. Non-player entities going through a nether portal do not generate a portal in the nether if none exists. This bug fix, coupled with a few other fixes to how portals and non-player entities interact in that update, made for some massive changes that sparked interest into long-distance interpearl travel. Denali approached me about this mechanic, and I started looking into what could be done with interpearls and nether portals. I proceeded to investigate the idea over the coming days, and I came to a, well, lackluster conclusion. The changes would make it possible to throw an enderpearl through the portal and have it land on the other side. The enderpearls can't do this in one tick, so it allowed for instant travel through the other side of the nether portal. This is a huge time advantage alone, since it takes 80 game ticks for the player to travel through the portal. But if the enderpearl did not land in the loaded area, or it hit a entity processing chunk border, it would not land, and therefore would not teleport the player. This caused for some unwanted side effects by teleporting the player when they loaded the chunks themselves later. This could be easily fixed by strategically placing a wall on the inside of the nether where the pearl would hit and consistently teleport the players to. But all of this was overshadowed by the fact that there was still one massive issue. Ender pearls were still bound by the normal 300 game tick portal cooldown that all entities have after exiting a portal. This meant that it was impossible to have an ender pearl go back into the original dimension that it came from, since the portal cooldown would not be gone before the chunk stopped processing. All hope was lost. The ideas I had, the hopes and the dreams, they came crashing down. Then, I found hope. Oh, okay, that's not the hope I mean. Obviously, my hope is in Jesus, but I'm talking about a little bit of a different hope here. In Snapshot 24W33A, after an extended break, Mojang made for another massive change. After using another portal, projectiles such as enderpearls and arrows now only need to leave the portal for 2 ticks to use the portal again, down from the previous 15 seconds. This meant that enderpearls could not only go back through the nether portal, but they could do so nearly instantly. So I moved my world files, loaded up another instance of carpet onto the snapshot world, and got to work. Okay, so what really is even all of the goal of this? Because, well, there's a lot of other great travel mechanics. The goal is to make an accessible, isleable, fast travel mechanic that is comparable to somewhere in between the mechanics of a piston bolt and an ender pearl cannon. Let's take a look at pearl cannons first. Pearl cannons are massive. They're feats of basically a lot of mathematics, and they take a ton of TNT duping to even consider running, and it's beyond the scope of the normal player. Piston bolts, on the other hand, are relatively simple. They only require just a few blocks and some redstone to go along with it, but while they are fast, they do require you to place a lot of blocks. For every rail here, you have to go ahead, do something like this, and you'll be stuck doing this for every single rail that you ever want to travel. And that can take a long time, especially if you want to go lots of different places. I guess what I'm trying to do is make something in between these two. So why is this such a big change? Well, since ender pearls can now travel through portals, it also functions as a chunk loader, which means that you don't have to be where your ender pearl is going to travel. That means that you could throw an ender pearl from spawn and have it end up somewhere millions of blocks away. Now, it would take a little bit of time, but because we can travel through the nether, we can go really fast. But there are some important questions we need to ask ourselves. The first of which being, what is the maximum distance that you can travel in the nether with an ender pearl? Well, that's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Whenever we load an area using a nether portal, we load the area that the ender pearl comes through. So if it comes through on this side of the chunk here, it loads all of this chunk plus the 8 surrounding blocks. You can see for this portal here, I've already went ahead and laid out the area that is loaded. And we need it to be the green area because that is entity processing, and interpearls are entities. The maximum distance would be if we could always place the nether portal here at this position and have it travel all the way through that chunk and this chunk and have it go here in this position. But that's not always the case, because if we load this position in the nether dimension, it may be in the middle of a chunk, whereas if we load this position, it could be on the front side of the chunk. It could appear here. But we still need to be specific about where we're going to place our nether portals. If I was to place another portal here and another portal here, that wouldn't travel very far. That would be, well, relatively useless. So, is there an optimal distance that we can travel? If we get away from everything, what's the best distance that we can travel? Well, to answer the question, it's 16 blocks, and that is the size of a chunk, which always ensures that we go from one chunk into another. 16 blocks. But why can't we do 17? Because if we went from here all the way to here, that would be 17 blocks as well as if we went from here all the way to here. That's another 17 blocks. So we have to be careful about how we position our portals. But before we get into the nitty-gritty of how we're going to get ender pearls to travel through all of these portals, we need to answer some basic questions. Basically, how do ender pearls travel? Well, there's a kind of obvious answer. They travel in a straight line, kind of, and they're affected by gravity, which means that they always end up coming back down, which is a good thing. We wouldn't want to be playing in creative all the time. But there are some considerations that we need to have. Whenever an ender pearl is traveling through the air, it has a particular drag coefficient, but whenever it is traveling through water, which we use to counteract the gravity, it has a larger drag coefficient. So if we take a look at this spreadsheet here, I did a little bit of testing, and we can look and see what's going on. I didn't calculate the drag coefficient, I'm not that bright of a person, but we can take a look and see the speed that's lost per tick. And whenever we're in water, we're around 0.05 meters per second lost. And whenever we're in air, you can see we're at about 0.013. I also did the test a little bit differently here as well, and we can still see that obviously the speed lost in the water is much greater than the speed lost in the air. But interestingly enough, the speed loss per tick does decrease as the speed decreases as well. So around this point, Mojang decided to release another version of the experimental snapshots, and I was extremely worried because I figured that they would revert some of the changes and some of the quirky features that I was talking about. But no, they haven't fixed a lot of stuff. You can still walk through portals like this. You don't actually have to go into them. You can just walk on the lower level and oh, you're going through. Yeah, some weird stuff like that is going on. But we're lucky because they didn't change anything, and also they released another snapshot a week later because I'm slow at recording things, and that hasn't broken anything either. So we're doing pretty well. We're in 34A as of right now. So just how far can we get if we just throw the ender pearl and we don't use a relauncher? Well, we don't get very far. I'm going to teleport myself into a specific position here, and if we throw it, you'll see no matter how long we wait, we don't get teleported. And that is because it has went through the nether, and it's ended up all the way down here, but as you can see, it doesn't have enough velocity to get through the next portal, which is a little bit of a problem. we need the velocity to be great enough that we can get ourselves through multiple portals and continue further down the line. And even though we do spend quite a bit of time in the overworld here, this is very little compared to what I actually want to have. So what that means is, no matter what, we're going to have a relaunching system, which means we're going to have to stabilize the Ender Pearl somehow, and then relaunch it through the next series of portals before we can mess with it again, which adds a bit of complexity, and that's not what I wanted, but it seems to be the only way. One other side note that I thought I should point out is the fact that you no longer need honey blocks to do corner elevators anymore. I think this is something similar to the bottom portal walking that I was doing earlier. If you just walk into a corner here, you go up because there's soul sand. And also if you stand on the edge, you get this bouncing effect, and it's really annoying. I don't fully understand why this is, but I have a feeling that it's the properties of the block spreading out over their 1 meter by 1 meter area. If we align ourselves very carefully here, what we can actually do is we can throw an Ender Pearl. I need to go up a little bit, but we can throw an Ender Pearl in a precise position so that it'll actually stay in the block. There we go. It's a little bit tricky to do just because of the random velocity of the Ender Pearl, but you can actually get it to stick in this corner here, similar to how you could before with Ender Pearls on honey blocks or any other block that doesn't have a full hitbox. But just how bad is the random velocity of an Ender Pearl? Is it something that we can overcome and just cut out it exactly, or do we need to have some other method to take care of it? Well, in short, it's kind of negligible, but not really. We have to deal with it early on. If we don't, it can move almost an entire block length from one side to the other over the course of an Ender Pearl travel. I don't have the exact figures on it. I didn't do a ton of extensive tests, but with throwing an Ender Pearl from the same position here, like this, you can see we land on a 3x3 roughly block spread, and if we multiply that over what we're hoping to travel, that can be quite a bit of distance. So really we need a way to minimize that and basically completely negate it at the beginning. Luckily for us though, we already have a way to do that. You see these Ender Pearls here? If they had a random velocity, they would have at some point clipped into one of the two blocks on the side. But what I can do is, using a command, I can check the velocity of this Ender Pearl here in all directions. Also, the @in addition to the command line is fantastic. But that'll give us the motion of this Ender Pearl here, since it's closest to us. And what we can see here is this Ender Pearl has been here for quite a while, but its upward momentum here is the one in the middle. The Y velocity is a little bit, but we can see that it's bouncing up and down. So we expect that to fluctuate. But if we look at the X and the Z coordinates, you'll see here that both of them are going to the negative 198th and negative 199th. That's basically nothing. Technically it's something, but that's smaller than anything else in the world. I don't know calculations, but that's tiny. It's not going anywhere. And speaking of not going anywhere, I was not going anywhere last week because I was sick. That's right. You don't care about that, but what it does mean is that this video has went from 2 weeks behind schedule to about 4 weeks behind schedule, and I don't even know if I'm going to get it out this weekend. So we'll have to see. Minecraft has managed to release, I think 2 more snapshots, maybe 3. I don't remember if we're on 36A or what the deal is.
But that doesn't matter because I was able to do a little bit of work, and I went through the designs here for my idea for a Reed launcher, and I ended up with this, which works really well, and it's actually very reliable. What I can do is, that's where we store our ender pearl. The powdered snow here allows the upwards and downwards momentum here to be less. You'll see whenever I have this, it is bouncing quite a bit. But if I go ahead and I place that there, we can go into spectator here, and we will see that it is bobbing less and less. I then just have to give this a redstone signal. Does everything and launches the ender pearl. Very nice. We didn't go that far though. And that's one of the main issues with this, is that it doesn't launch the ender pearl very far. I think that there's a way to get around it by removing the ender pearl a little bit later so that it has upwards momentum whenever it leaves, but there's a whole lot there. With the new changes, and also with the research that I have been doing, I've basically come to the conclusion that while this is a good concept, it's not necessarily the best idea in practice. And so I am going to still publish this video, but I'm not going to come up with a working system that would be able to take you hundreds of blocks all over your world. I think that there are some better alternatives, and possibly using wind charges, it would be easier. I'm gonna have to possibly look into that, but also I may leave that for other tech YouTubers. But I think what I have here is a good concept. What I could do is, I just put up a little bit of a mock portal system here, is we toss our ender pearl into there, and then we give it a power. That was a little bit strange. I don't know why I teleported twice. There's still some bugs here, obviously, but yeah, we can teleport through, and honestly, for as little time as that took, it's pretty fast. The bug changes that Mojang made in the latest snapshot weren't that impactful to what I was doing, and I'm not on the new snapshot now, but I think that they did change the hit registration for fast-moving entities, and I was originally having issues with this because of sometimes fast-moving entities like ender pearls wouldn't register that they were going through this string, and so the observer wouldn't update, and I think that has been fixed now. But I'd have to go into a whole nother world and check that out, and as of right now, because I have the interest in getting this video out at some point soon, I'm not going to. Maybe I'll make another one covering all the new stuff. If there's any big updates, we'll have to see. But yeah, that's gonna do it. Hopefully this has given you some ideas. I should be able to link this world down in the description below, so if you want to download it, check out my work, see what's going on, feel free to. But I'll catch you in the next video. Take care, have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.